What's up everyone, Tera Roberts here with Fantasy Pros, bringing you my top 10 waiver ads of the week for week 8. Last week was crazy, and this week we don't have a ton of teams on bye, so this video is more focused on injuries and stashes for the long term. But before we go into it, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to Fantasy Pros. Now let's go ahead and dive right in. Number 10, Peyton Barber. Peyton Barber is back on the table. If you look at the box score, you would be a bit confused because Barber wasn't even active. But Barber was a healthy scratch, and that does make sense because Barber is strictly used as a Josh Jacobs replacement. If Jacobs plays, Barber has zero use. But if Jacobs is out, Barber is in play. In week 3, when Jacobs was out against Miami, he saw 23 carries for 111 yards and 1 touchdown plus 3 receptions for 31 yards. Now, the Raiders do have a bye week this week, so Jacobs has extra time to heal. So that's why Barber is on the back of my list, and quite frankly, the week 8 bye week is a breeze compared to what we've been through. But the week 9 bye, it's a nightmare at running back. So you may just need to go ahead and get ahead of the injury news and add him just in case Jacobs can't go in week 9. Apparently, the injury to Jacobs isn't serious, but I think we've learned at this point that coaches saying it's not serious doesn't mean that a player won't actually be out for multiple weeks. It's just better to be safe than sorry in week 9. Number 9, DEVONTA FREEMAN. It feels so strange to say this, but DEVONTA FREEMAN is not a terrible pickup. Unless the run defense is awful, the Ravens are opting to throw the ball more, but they are such a potent offense that the goal line opportunities keep these less than ideal running backs fantasy relevant. Freeman only saw 4 carries for 14 yards, but got a touchdown for the second week in a row, plus he went 3 for 3 in receptions. With Latavius Murray out, Freeman is the lead back. The Ravens do have a bye week, so he isn't usable this week, but I feel like we've gotten to the point this season where you might be running low on fab and need to take proactive strategies with waivers, and it's not a bad idea to go ahead and jump ahead and grab him on the cheap in case this ankle injury keeps Latavius Murray out for additional time. Number 8, Brandon Bolden. Brandon Bolden at number 8 is a testament to how dicey things are getting at running back this season. Rostering Patriots running backs is often a battle of will. Will you have the fortitude to power through and play them at the right time? Damian Harris is the lead back, and that is not changing. He thrives on the ground, but he's not a factor catching passes out of the backfield. And that's where the other Patriots running backs come into play. We felt pretty confident it was Brandon Bolden, but in week 6, he disappeared completely and Ramondre Stevenson took over. But true to Bill Belichick's ways, I don't think we'll ever know exactly what the thought process was around that. But this week, Stevenson was a healthy scratch, and Brandon Bolden caught 6 of his 7 targets for 79 yards. And in week 8, the Patriots face a super run-friendly defense in the Los Angeles Chargers. Number 7, Russell Gage. Now that we've got those stash-type running backs out of the way, let's dive into some usable receivers. And Russell Gage is someone we need to consider picking up. Sunday against Miami, he caught 4 of 6 targets for 67 yards and a touchdown. It's been a long season, and with so much flashy talent on the Falcons roster, it's easy to forget that Russell Gage is a proven commodity. But look back to 2020. Gage was a high target recipient, particularly in games where Julio Jones couldn't play. The back half of 2020, he saw anywhere from 5 to 12 targets per game with touchdown upside as well. Many people just assumed that he wouldn't be fantasy relevant with Kyle Pitts stepping in, and while Pitts has turned a corner, Calvin Ridley's production hasn't. I think there's room for Gage to potentially be a low-end flex option moving forward. Number 6, Hunter RENFROW. We're almost there with fantasy managers accepting that Hunter RENFROW is someone you need to roster. Again, the Raiders are on a bye week, but take advantage of that and grab him on the cheap because they have a very pass-friendly schedule moving forward. RENFROW is just the safe option. He's averaging over 7 targets per game and catching the vast majority of them. He has a 74.5% catch rate, and that's not an anomaly. His 2020 catch rate was 72.7%. We're just seeing a big jump in targets for him as he's on pace for well over 100 targets this year, and it's possible that doesn't change, especially given the schedule. RENFROW is someone that you need to roster moving forward. Number 5, SAMAJE PERINE. SAMAJE PERINE is unbelievably low rostered, just 7% in Yahoo leagues, and I get it. He was a big waiver ad in week 5 when Joe Mixon was out, and then he landed on the COVID list and was the easy cut candidate. But this week against Baltimore with a healthy Joe Mixon, PERINE saw 11 carries for 52 yards and 1 touchdown with just under 50% snap count. It was looking like they were going to opt to give Mixon a very heavy workload, but it's possible they just didn't anticipate how real of a playoff run they'd be able to make. And rather than giving Mixon 20 plus carries, they can opt to involve PERINE and make sure that Mixon is fresh towards the end of the season and for the playoffs. I would much rather roster a guy like SAMAJE PERINE in the long run compared to some of those running backs on the back end of my list. Even with Mixon healthy, PERINE is just a better option. Number 4, Daniel Jones. I will try to keep it short and sweet with Daniel Jones. There have only been 2 black marks on the resume of Daniel Jones. That one game where he went down with a concussion against Dallas and the super bad game against the Rams, but come on, that's kind of understandable. This week against Carolina though, Jones went 23 of 33 for 203 yards and 1 touchdown with 28 yards on the ground. He gets the volume and the work on the ground to justify him as a good streaming option. And this week, he faces a Kansas City team that gave up a solid game to Ryan Tannehill. Number 3, Darius Slayton. If Daniel Jones is a good play at quarterback, you gotta grab the guys that are catching the ball from him, right? Darius Slayton led the Giants with 9 targets. He caught 5 of those 9 targets for 63 yards. Galladay is still out, Shepard re-injured his hamstring right before the game, and of course Saquon is still out as well. Next week they take on a very pass-friendly Kansas City. Dante Pettis is an option as well. Slayton just had the higher snap count and has the more proven track record, so if you're prioritizing one of them, you should grab off waivers first. Go with Slayton, and Pettis can be your backup option. Number 2, Rashod Bateman. Rashod Bateman is on my list again, so please make sure that you add him. Marquise Brown is still the top option in Baltimore, but Lamar Jackson will continue to throw for a higher than usual volume, and Bateman should see a good amount of targets and is worthy of a roster spot. He caught 3 of his 6 targets for 80 yards against Cincinnati. The Ravens are on a bye, so again, this is a season-long stash, but the back half of the schedule is so great for Ravens receivers. Number 1, Kenneth Gainwell. And our number 1 ad of the week is Kenneth Gainwell. Gainwell was on my waivers list earlier in the season for this exact reason. He's a great handcuff with big PPR upside. He had 5 carries for 20 yards, but caught 4 of his 8 targets with a touchdown. Miles Sanders went down with an ankle injury, and we'll need to wait to see how long he's out, but it's very likely that he'll miss some time, meaning that Gainwell has a big opportunity moving forward. Now, I will say you can consider Boston Scott, but his role would be to take on work strictly on the ground, work that Miles Sanders was barely getting. I just don't see a ton of upside with him. That's why I prioritize Gainwell. Not a ton of work on the ground, but great upside through the air. Thank you for watching this week's waiver wire ads. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to Fantasy Pros across all platforms, and come back again next week for another round of waiver wire ads.